Welcome to a Blood and Pigment ship review. We are here talking about the Corvette today. I am Joseph.
I am Guy.
And I'm Dan. The Corvette is an 8-gun warship, and it costs 15 whole points.
Designed originally by the French, the Corvette is small and swift.
The Corvette in Blood and Plunder has a max speed of 5 inches. It has sail settings for 5, 4, 2, and 0, along with the anchor setting. Its windward value is -2, and it has a turn value of 3.
Corvette's hull fortitude is 4, and its hull integrity is 4. That means it takes 12 hits to drop this ship down to 1 fortitude. The rigging on this ship also has fortitude 3 and integrity 6. This ship's draft is also 6.
The Corvette is a 2-deck ship. The main deck is large. It can hold 27 models with 6 light cannons in there, or 33 without cannons. The Corvette has a 4-deck subsection that can hold up to 6 models. The poop deck can hold up to 18 models.
The Corvette's main deck can be armed with 6 light or medium cannons and 2 swivel guns. The poop deck can be armed with 2 light or medium cannons, 2 chaser cannons, and 2 swivel guns. Or 4 swivel guns, I mean.
The Corvette has 5 traits: fighting platform, square sails, stay sails, chasers, and sweeps 3.
This ship can be given 2 fighting tops for 2 points each. The Corvette also has the option to take a mizzen mast at the cost of 2 of the rear cannon ports. Now, what makes the Corvette good?
The Corvette is basically a glass cannon. It's pretty fragile, but it's a warship. It is heavily armed. You can take a lot of cannons on it, a lot of swivels. You can fit a lot of guys on the deck. You can make a pretty deadly beast, but one broadside from a galleon, and you're going to have matchsticks floating, bloody matchsticks floating in the water. So,
In all fairness, most ships will be bloody matchsticks after a broadside from a galleon.
I seem to recall having my galleon turn into bloody matchsticks by your galleon once. Yes.
I was just about to say that.
But yeah, it has 4 for fortitude and integrity, so that's the smallest a ship can be so far in Blood and Plunder. But I've seen you use this. I've used it, and it can be pretty deadly. I like those 3 pairs of cannons on the main deck, plus plenty of space to put a cannon crew and another sizable unit there.
It has a lot of strange qualities for a ship. One of the strangest is the 46 models that can fit on it as a 2-deck ship. It has a huge main deck that holds 27 models with 3 subsections possible. It's insane.
That's
really.
the other weird thing about it. It can have like 7 units on a 2-deck ship. It's outlier from all the other Blood and Plunder ships, partly because of the way it's built. It's actually a wooden ship, a MDF kit, rather than a resin model. I think that's partly why it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's a model you have to build, and you can't really get around that. I guess you could farm it out to somebody to build for you as a kit, but there's a lot of stuff that you have to do with it that you don't have to with other Firelock kits, like shaping the hull.
Yeah, you got this big block of foam you have to sand down to give it a nice shape to it, and then glue it all to the wood. Should we talk about that project element? You've built it. I am holding mine right now. I've had it for 1.5 years and haven't taken the time to build it yet, which I am ashamed of. But how did your experience go?
It was a lot of fun. I enjoy model building, and it's something that really I miss from in this hobby from other sorts of wargaming where you get to build stuff. The only time you get to do it in Blood and Plunder is when you're building terrain. So
masts and rigging, that should scratch the itch a little bit. But.
Yeah, well, I assemble my mass and spars usually like in a couple of minutes. They go together so quickly.
Yeah.
But I've built 2 Corvettes. The second one I did some modifications on to make it look a little bit different, and it's a slow process if you use wood glue like me. It takes about 4 or 5 days of gluing chunks together and then putting a weight on them so they can compress and dry. And then, but it's kind of rewarding in that it is that slow process of watching something build up over a couple of days
Like in your
until you get
shipyard.
until you get to the very end and you're like, put all the pieces together that you've been assembling.
Sounds like I should farm mine out to you.
How was your experience building one, Dad?
So, first and foremost, I'm a gamer first, a hobbyist second. So, I did not particularly enjoy putting it together. I soldiered through and I got it all done in a day because I used super glue and got it all together. The most difficult part for me wasn't stacking the wood. I actually found that, kind of interesting. It was the shaping of the hull. And again, that's just my personal preference. I had to give it to my brother, who's a way better artist than I am, because it's already difficult for me to paint and assemble because I have shaky hands. And he was kind enough to at least get that part sanded down and then put it all together. Once it was put together, it looked good, it felt good. I think it looks a little blocky, but that's just the nature of the kit. But it plays really, really well. It's my favorite of all the itty bitty ships. It's my favorite. I love overgunning it. It's a good gun platform in a small ship if you can get like the first volley off. And if you're like me and you like boarding, it's a really deadly boarding ship. You can get right up close, throw grapples, hop over, and just start chopping heads. It's brutal.
Yeah, it's fast, 5 inches. We should point out that it's almost it has all the same sailing traits, basically, as a light frigate, right?
Yeah, it does.
Top speed 5, windward -2, turn 3, and then a stay sail, so it can sail up. It doesn't ever totally die in the water.
With the mizzen mast, it loses square sails, so you
Right.
don't have to worry about that. It has a couple unique applications and traits or things that are kind of strange with it. First one I want to mention is sweeps 3, which is the highest sweeps value on a ship. So sweeps 3 or going 3 inches really isn't a lot. But with the Cosarios, or the Spanish Corsairs, this ship can move 4 inches under sweeps, and then you get to tool around in a Corvette with massive guns on the forward deck, completely ignoring the wind. It's really a lot of fun. The only other ship that has sweeps 3 is the Tartana.
And this one's considerably more deadly than that. You can run double the guns.
Yeah.
It's almost like that's its class is the privateer sloop, the Tartan, the Corvette. They all share the same hull integrity and fortitude, but they're all just a little different. If you like fast, square rig vessels, it's the one for you. If you like the sloop and you want to cut some points off, you got the privateer sloop. And if you don't like either of those, you want to look at the Tartana. It's in the same class. It's just different play style. That's what I really like about it.
Mm-hmm. The other kind of unusual trait that the Corvette has is actually based on its dimensions. It has a very far forward turning point, because the turn point you use on this is the little ladder on the side, and that means when you do turn, it fishtails, or
It's
it
really
puts
weird in the water.
yeah. Now the interesting thing about that fishtailing is the poop deck has 4 swivel guns on it. So so we usually put its poop deck, because the turning point is so far forward, it will put it closer to the point of the turn than it would on a similarly sized sloop. So you can kind of just do a hard turn, a hard 3-inch turn, and end up with the swivel gun platform in a great position to do a shot into your opponent's ship.
You can basically fling your posterior around. It's very weird. Yeah, a lot of different things about this ship. I think mostly because of it's kind of just incidental because of the different construction technique and a different Firelock didn't necessarily design every little bit of it about it. A different company helped out. So yeah, turns weird, has a huge main front deck, and has all its subsections. You want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, it has a possible 3 subsections because they allow you to take fighting tops on the 2 forward masts, so the foremast and the mainmast, which are all in that one massive main deck. And this also has the foredeck subsection that can hold 6 models. So that's a total of 14 models that can be on these 3 different decks. It means that when you're playing or when you're list building, you can do some unusual things. You can split a musket unit up between those 3 different sections. And then when they want to take a boarding action with the way that the subsection rules work right now, then even if they're just moving on to a ship next to it, it actually sucks the units from those different subsections as part of the boarding action. So if there's any models that are left in them, they all get to I think of them like swinging across in the rigging at the same time.
Yeah.
The fighting tops too. I mean, I was just thinking about that. This is perfect for a game where the bare minimum model count is 4. You can put a couple models up there to shoot muskets down on people. A lot of the other bigger ships, it seems weird because to get that 4 model count, you have to play a smaller game, and it's hard to fit even something like if you're going to try to man up a light frigate, 200 points, it's possible, but you generally won't get to use those fighting tops. With this shit, because it's made for such a small game, you can spend the points on 4 dudes with muskets, 4 Bukini or 4 freebooters, and put them up there.
And then
Yeah, this is kind of the smallest ship with those fighting tops, isn't it?
yeah, it is, and it's really nice getting that +1 to their penalty to saves from being at a higher elevation.
Yeah, this is basically like almost the quintessential pirate/privateer ship as far as like the smaller ships goes. Because if you're 200 points, you got speed 5, you got enough firepower if you want to build a cannon list, or if you want to board, you have the speed. It plays almost like a baby frigate. That's kind of how it plays. A baby frigate that's a little more fragile.
It's that the withers with one hit. The other unique thing is that 4-deck subsection that holds 6 models, it actually has a mount for the 2 swivel guns in that subsection. So if you put models in there with swivel guns, your opponent has to target, with the way subsections work, your opponent has to target just that subsection to kill those swivel guns. They don't get to, if you have just one unit in that section, you don't have to take models out, or they don't have to roll hits if they hit your cannons with a shot. So it's kind of it's a unique way that you kind of force your opponent to choose their targets with the subsections.
If you get this ship, be ready to study the subsection chapter in No Peace Beyond the Line. And be forewarned, it's not all easy reading. But
also, for a bit of cheese, if you play the Dutch Royal Navy, you can give this ship heavily built for free. And that's how I usually played it, and it does help in smaller games with only light guns. That 1 point of damage you shrug off can be the difference between life and death.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just silly. Shallow draft and I don't think it doesn't have shallow draft, but just heavily built on a Corvette is really silly, and I enjoy it.
So we've talked about some unique elements and a lot of strengths. What are its drawbacks?
With all square rigged vessels, it cares about the wind. You want to make sure it is in the wind. It's not like the sloop where you can just tack with impunity and the sloop doesn't care where the wind is at all. But this, you got to make sure that you are with the wind. If you're playing the rescue scenario from No Peace Beyond the Line, if you're attacking, it is possible for your opponent to maneuver around you and go against the wind or not as with the wind as you can, and it's difficult for you to turn around and catch them. I say that because I've had it happen.
Yeah, that's the problem with all of the ships that have the frigate sail rating, where they move 5 but have 1 word penalty of -2. That going against the wind hurts all the time. And starting a game like Control the Field, where you just start in the downwind of your opponent, and you have to you have to maneuver with that, it means that you're going 3 inches the whole game, no matter what.
Sailing Master is a really good complement to this to help you get a little extra speed, especially when you need to push upwind.
Yeah. And that bonus on tacking too is also nice.
But even then, it does have sweeps 3.
Yep, you could just put some rowers on there and call it a day.
Yeah.
But that does basically double the cost of your ship
Yeah, it does.
or more.
The other problem I've had with this ship is that the forward deck where your guns are is so long that your ship that it's kind of a magnet for cannonballs, because I've had games where both of the enemy, like it's easy for the opponent to line up both of their cannon decks shooting at the same deck on this ship, or even 3 decks that have a shot at the same main deck.
On the flip side, you do have a wide arc of fire yourself too. But yes, I have done it to you. I've
Yeah.
blown up that main deck. You put a bunch of guys on there, and you can focus fire on it and pin down the majority of the crew.
hmm The other problem that I have with it is that it kind of has the same problem as the light frigate, in that it has the rear deck where there's only one cannon. It's really hard to want to arm it
Why bother?
and put a cannon there, because it's only one gun. And even though you have the swivels there that you want to arm anyways, saying, well, okay, I have this cannon down here in swivels that gonna want to shoot the swivels every turn. Shooting the swivels every turn and arming and firing a cannon really isn't it doesn't match up a lot of the time, especially if it's just one cannon that you have.
It's messy. You usually put a big group of musketeers or buccaneer gun guys on the back, don't you?
Yeah, that's the best in my view to use that deck. Is either that, well, because you're going to take a lot of hits, you want a unit free to do repair actions. And having like, you want to arm those swivel guns as well, so you're either going to arm the swivel guns and have like some musketeers to do repair actions, or you're just going to have like skip the middleman and just have a big unit of musketeers back there that can also do repair actions.
Yeah, I find when I'm on the defensive, I'll throw that one gun in there because I'm going to be firing my cannons anyway, and I want to damage them as much as possible. If I'm on the offensive, I won't even bother with that cannon. Just put the 3 up top and arm the swivels, or again, have that free musket unit back there to handle anything else.
Yeah, that's a good option.
And then while we're talking weaknesses, we gotta address the elephant in the room, and that is just its fragility.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
pretty big ship, but it's really easy to blow up, and there's no way around that. Although the rigging is surprisingly resilient. It's pretty hefty.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably the heaviest ship in its class as far as the firepower you can pack on it. You know, again, like we were saying, it compares to the privateer sloop and the Tartana, and it overwhelms both of them in firepower. But yeah, like its counterparts, it cannot take a hit. So you want to bring it to games where you're fighting a ship that has the same fortitude as you. Once you bring this into a game with something like a brigantine, or if you're fighting a light frigate in this thing, forget it. Board them and hope you don't sink before you get there, and just take their ship. Don't try to win any cannon duels with ships way out of your class.
Yeah, that's the temptation, is to bring it to a big ship game because it acts like a big ship, but you might sink.
You're gonna lose those cannons really quickly, especially one withering attack from 5 guns from a light frigate, and you're toast. The only thing you can do at that point is hope that you're either outmaneuvering the opponent, or getting in a position that you can try running at them at an angle, and then sweeping in with your swivel guns to take out their gun deck.
Right, get the first shot.
Yep. Concentrate fire on that gun deck.
So overall, I'd say it's a pretty strong ship. Weaknesses are there, but it has some real strengths, and it's a fun ship. It's kind of in between the heavy and light class of ship, and it has features from both. The construction is the biggest thing you need to be aware of if you're looking to buy it. It's going to come in a plastic bag. Won't look like a ship when you get it. Also, it's $85, which is more expensive than a sloop, which is currently $69. If you want to reach a little further, the frigate is $125 right now, so $40 more, and you get a bigger, and I would argue nicer ship. I like the resin more than the wood, although this looks pretty classy once you get it built, if you do it well, too.
I can't comment because I'm biased against frigates. I
Against
love them
frigates?
too much.
Kind of the closest price-wise would be $10 more would get a brigantine that has the same number of guns. And if you construct it as a sloop of war, about the same sailing profile.
There's 3 decks instead, 3 smaller decks instead of that big, huge one.
Too, yeah.
The Corvette looks sleeker and more dangerous. The brigantine is a little tubby looking because it doesn't have the same prow thing on the front.
And the Corvette's main deck with 6 cannons on it is so nice.
Yeah, 3 pairs feels a lot more dangerous than 2 groups of 2 pairs.
Yep.
Any final comments?
No, I think that does it for me.
Yeah, I think we covered everything.
For more Blood and Plunder articles, you can go over to bloodandpigment.com and check out everything we've written there. We have articles on ships, nations, factions, terrain, painting guides, battle reports, and product reviews. Check it out there.
Also, look at the rest of our YouTube channel as well. We'll be putting out a video every Monday from now on. Subscribe and ring the ship's bell to stay notified of our uploads.
As always, keep your dice ready and the wind at your back, yar har!